Hi guys, welcome. Sorry, there was something wrong with the other link. So this is the new one, and I'm just sending it to people right now. So get yourselves comfortable as I just send this out, and then we'll get started. Hi. I'm just sending it out to everyone. So frustrating that it didn't work the first time. Okay, so you can see my paint here. I use the basics primary colors, so bright red, bright yellow, phthalo blue, black and white. And you can also have a pre-mixed brown. So just a dark raw umber is good, something that looks like this. If you want to if you don't want to have to mix as much. So that is a really dark brown. And of course, you can replay this. You can pause this later. You don't have to do it all right now. We don't take down our videos. So you can use the same link to watch it later. So you can see this is my mixing palette if you want to have a separate palette. And in terms of brushes, I like to use this large flat one. You can also use something like round, but I personally find this one is better. And here's another example. It's kind of the same. And then I have a detailed number 4 brush that I really like. It's not the smallest one, but it works pretty good. So that's a number 4. You can have something smaller like a number 2, number 0. This is a 16 by 20 canvas, by the way. And you can use something smaller like a 12 by 16 or 8 by 10. And I also have a flat bright brush number 4. You can use a 1/2 inch or number 6, whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be exact brushes. And alternatively, if you're a fan of just round brushes in general, you can use a medium round number 6 to 10 or 12. And I'm going to move these. So let's get started. I'm just going to move some unnecessary brushes out of the way that I don't really need right now. Okay. So one of the first things that we want to start with is just mixing our background color. We want to get some background colors going. This is my mixing palette. I'm going to take my large brush and just dip it in the water. Kind of dabbed it dry on a napkin. So for the background, it's up to you what color you ultimately want to do. However, since we're doing kind of like a waterfall, why not make it more like a waterfall color? So I put in more of a blue color. You can do more teal if you're feeling more teal. I did put a little bit into the bottom here for some teal. So have fun with it. See, you can make your adjustments, see what you like. Let's start with a little bit of blue. So we're only starting with a little bit here. Then I'm going to take a little scoop of white. You can see that's just a basic light blue. I'm going to take one more little scoop, just add it to the side. Gets a little bit lighter. So let's move this out of the way. And then let's put in that background waterfall. So you can see about halfway is where I stop. I'm going to go just slightly below. So somewhere around here. Wherever you do not paint is now going to be your rocks and the water down here. So we can make our rocks a little bit higher, right? But you don't want to go too high. A little bit of water. So I just dipped in the water. I'm going to take a scoop of this. I'm going to, about the middle, just do 2 parallel lines like that, up and down, nice long streaks. And pretty narrow. I start off a little bit narrow because I can always widen this a bit more. Because if you leave it too wide, then it has to be all filled in with white. And a touch of water, take a bit more of paint. And I'm just going to keep going with my streaks. So I'm not going to use all the same color. You can tell that it's getting darker and it's going to have some different kind of purpley colors later. But let's just keep going with some different blues. So I'm going to take a little bit more of my blue water, streak it in, start outside, just kind of streak it a few times. The more you streak over it and go over the same streaks of paint and strokes of paint, the more it blends together. And the less you do it, you can see the more streaky it looks. I'm going to do this again. Touch of water. Try not to keep taking more water if it's dripping everywhere. So there's a happy medium. I hope you find it. Okay, now I'm going to take maybe a little bit of white. I didn't even wash off my brush. This is just pure white. Maybe I'll just see a little streak of some highlight. Don't keep going over it. It just blends back into a basic blue. You can just streak some in, and I'm just going to leave that. The more I go over it, the more it just blends out into one color. So I kind of like that look. If I take my contaminated white, so you know white that's like touching your blue, yeah, that stuff. I'm going to go in the middle now. Since I've been using a bit of lighter colors, I'm just going to get a bit of that base coat. And you can use the thin side of your brush now. Nice and streaky. Give it all that movement. You can go right below the line. You don't want to stop too short of it because then it will look like if you see some of this and you stopped really close up here, not towards the bottom, it will look really choppy. You want it to be consistent. So make sure you're going to the bottom. Okay, so let's keep going. So I'm getting towards the edges now. I think at this point, I'm going to take some straight blue, get that in. Let's do the other side. A little bit of water, straight blue. Start outside the streaks. Get up to the top. Nice long strokes there, and then get it mostly almost to the very edge. You can even add in some streaks of just plain blue in towards the middle, just to break up all of that brightness if you want to. Try to use the thin side. Then after this, I haven't washed it off yet. I am going to go to a darker blue. So for the darker blue, into this same spot, I'm just going to take a little scoop of blue again, just a small section of what you already had. And then I'm going to take a little tiny dip, so a little small pea size of black. You can barely see it on the brush. It's there. You can always add a little bit more. And then I'm going to fill in the side. So I start from the very edge where there's just about an inch for me. Go on each side. And then drag it into the darker blue. So take a little bit more. Kind of looks like a grayish blue, but it's still quite dark. Don't want any white spots on my canvas. There. And then soon I'm going to add a little bit of purple. Oh, thanks, Vicki. Thanks for joining. Merry Christmas to those who are painting with me and celebrating. Okay. So while that just rests for a minute, I'm going to touch up on the white in a little bit. I'm going to put a few more streaks in there. We're going to put in some purple, and you can add some more very light blue if you think that you want to put a little bit more. It's too dark. Down here, we can start putting in the water. So more horizontally. And when you think about where it's starting, I always like to go a little bit higher than I want to. So I'm going to have a lot of teal, and then I'm going to go down to blue, to like a purpley indigo at the bottom, so it's getting darker. Kind of like how it is from here in the middle out, it gets darker. So just wash off your brush when you are done with the waterfall at the top. Okay, so let's mix our color. 2 piece sizes of blue. Then you're going to take another big scoop, and I'm going to take a bit more of white, just to a small section. I'm leaving this blue for later. Back to a lighter blue. Then you're going to take only like that much yellow. See that? Very little. Mix that in. I actually kind of miscalculated how much yellow so very little yellow, but that's a good teal. I just needed a little bit lighter. There. Good. Nice teal. So let's go a little bit higher. Just go back and forth, a little bit of water. And I'm going to add some lighter streaks of white up here when it's a little bit more dry. I'm going to go down quite a bit, a couple inches. This is my 16 by 20, so maybe for you it's not as much. A little bit of water. Take a bit more of this paint. Okay, now I'm going to start going blue. You can see I have only a little bit left here. So I'm going to take a bit of water, just pick up this. I can let it touch this color a bit so it has a bit of a mix. Perfect. Touch of water. Just start a little bit below and streak it upwards. So now it blends. So that was just my plain blue that I took. That was next to my teal color. Now I can just take some more straight blue. Just keep going. You can use also the thin side of your brush if you want to get more of those thin lines going through the water. Adds a bit more movement. I don't mind going up a little bit. So for now, I'm just going to put in some dark blue at the bottom, and I'll put in some darker blue with black and some purple added in. Once I go back to the waterfall and put some purple up there, you can add some into the water because it will be a bit more dry and it won't peel off your paint. So I'm just washing this off pretty well. Yeah, I'm just dabbing it dry. So back into that waterfall at the top, what I want to do is maybe use the same brush or switch to a medium flat. So it's like just a smaller version of the same one, whatever you prefer. You can try one first and then switch to the other if it doesn't work. I think let's try this one first. Now, to make our purple, since it's already blue, you don't have to worry about making it a dark violet color because you want to go a little bit more pink actually, because it's going to pick up your blue and just make it darker blue again. So I'm going to take a big scoop of my red, a decent size, and then just a small little dot of blue. You have to be very careful because, yeah, it makes it purple pretty fast. So if I add in another couple pea sizes of white, see how like magenta it kind of looks. See that? Pinky purple. That's what I want to start with. And you don't want to start with this thick paint on your brush. I'm just wiping a little bit of it off. Just a small touch of water. Just going to lightly tap it on the side. I'll start in the middle section, not right here, and see how it goes. So if I streak this in, add some streaks here, work my way a little bit into the middle. You can add as much as you like. And then it starts drying and it goes a little bit more blue in color. Okay, let's take a little bit more. If you have a premixed purple that you'd rather use, sure, you can use it. Okay, going over it just a couple times to let it blend in with some of that blue. I think I'm going to add a bit more white to this color to make it a bit brighter as I go into this section here. Okay, so I have some in there. And you can add as much as you like. You can take away some of the purple by just going back to lighter blue or some darker blue. So for example, if I just go back to some darker blue, see if I just streak some over top of these bits of purple, kind of gets rid of it a little bit more, tones it down if you're not a fan. You can just add some lighter blue. So if I just take a little bit of my lighter blue and I just streak some in. I do like some of the purple though. Put a bit more purple. Okay, so I think that's good. Maybe some extra dark blue. If you could do a second coat of your blue and black, remember that? You do a couple streaks as a second coat. Notice how it gets more opaque and just deeper in color. So that's optional as well. You could just do some second coats of any of your colors. Just do the streaks, like use the thin side of your brush, more right here. Small touch of water, not too much. You might pull off the paint. And add in more of these colors to your liking. Maybe a bit more light blue. I like the light blue. And remember, you can add some teal. If you like this teal color, you can add a couple into here. Just be careful when you're going over top of purple with teal. It might go brownish if you're not too careful there. All right. Just going through, and I just can, the more you go over it, the more it blends out, right? So if you like it more blended, feel free to do that. Now I'm just washing this off, and we can put in some more white into the middle. Dab this dry. So a little bit of white on the same brush. And from the middle, you can just put that line going down, add a couple. So work your way out so that you have less paint on your brush as you work your way out. Go as wide as you want to. Make sure you're getting the bottom. Alrighty. I think that's okay. Just making sure this bottom is good. I'm interested to see the different colors that we put in the background. You know, if we went more on one side than the other, maybe more teal because of the water at the bottom. Which, by the way, is what I like to do next. But let's just add some purple while we have that purple at the bottom here. And just use the same color. Just use the same. I'm just taking my purple and streaking some in. You just go, it doesn't have to be all the way through. And if you're looking for the supply list, it's actually in the description here. You can also rewind to the beginning to hear the color list as well. And I just use basic colors, meaning primary colors, black and white, because I like to mix my own. Mostly as it gets from the teal into the blue, this is where I like to pop out the purple. And if you take about equal parts, maybe 2 parts red, 1 part blue, or almost equal parts of each color, you can get a darker version of your, like a violet. So if you like it purple, you can add a little bit more or make it more indigo. So it's just a bit more blue still and less red. So let me show you what I mean. Red, blue, about equal parts, just a touch of white. Take a little touch more so you can see it. Oh, sorry. I think that's it. Just making sure I didn't accidentally touch any black here. Okay. Blue and red. So about equal parts, you get more of like a violet indigo. So yeah, you can get a little bit of a lighter version or a darker version. So mine's a little bit more blue at the bottom. I didn't really go too purpley, and you know, there's no rules here. You can go more purple because it's a painting. It's fun. It's kind of whimsical. Making sure the lines are pretty straight. Okay, now let's put in that highlight I was talking about. I just washed this off. Wash it off, dab it a bit dry. Then what I personally like to use is any white touching your teal because it still has a hint of teal in there. Or just take white with a dot of your already mixed teal. So it's like an off white color of your teal. So it's slightly tinted. Touch of water. I like to flatten my brush as I pick it up. So I'll just flatten the brush like this. And then just start from here. Try to keep them all level with your canvas. So straight lines. And just streak it. What it does is as I keep going over it, it just lightens that top part up. So you can go back to a little bit of your darker teal if you want to put a bit more of that in, which is totally fine. This is just like a little bit of that darker one. You can always put it back in. You know what? Teal and purple is actually really nice when you're not mixing directly over top of each other. They look good together. Okay. All right, let's go and start with our rocks. I'm thinking we can start with our rocks. Yes. Actually, wait a second. Before we do the rocks, maybe we could do our trees. Because then you can put the rocks over top of your trees and hide them at the bottom because you don't see the bottoms of the trees at all. So I'm going to still use my medium flat brush, and you can switch to your detail brush for some of the branches that come out. You can use your detail brush for all of your trees. If you have a pre-mixed brown, go ahead and grab that. So like I said, raw umber, burnt umber is good too. So let's mix our color. I'm going to take equal parts red, yellow, equal parts. And then I'm going to take a little pea size of black. That's a dark brown right there. And just a little contaminated pea size of white. And you have a basic brown. So again, flatten the brush if you're using a flat medium brush. Just get some of the excess paint off. We don't need a big blob of it. Okay. Okay, so for trees, my first layer is just going to be brown, and then I'm going to do some black. And you could cut out the black and just do brown in the background, because I know that there's a lot of dark colors and it can, I don't want it to clash too much. So I'm not going directly in the middle. I'm just going to go off to the side about an inch or maybe a little bit more, depending on how much space you have. So more into this darker middle, like in between here, not too close to here because it's too cluttered. And then I'm just going to go up, not quite to the very top. Press a bit harder at the bottom. So press harder, then let go. Keep it thin at the top. All right, let's do it again. Let's go over to the side and do another one. They're not perfectly straight. Press a little bit lighter at the top, press harder, then to letting go, a little bit thinner at the top. Notice how I'm going below my waterfall line? I'm doing that on purpose. Then again, let's do another one over here. Press harder. Keep it thinner at the top. I haven't done the branches yet, but let's do the other side. And there we go, just a smaller one. Let's do one over on the side here. So let's go to the detail brush and I'll show you what I do. You can always go a little bit lighter with your brown if it's too dark and you can't really see it that well. You can always add a touch more white. I just add a little branch. So I just go out. There. Let's do another branch. And then let's do, you can add as many branches as you want. Maybe on this one, I'll just add another one at the top going off page. And then maybe a little one coming in here. I'm keeping it pretty close to the tree. They start within the tree, and then I kind of just go out and kind of wobbly, not perfectly straight. I don't like perfectly straight lines on branches, as branches, because I don't think it's that realistic. Just a little branch coming out here. There. Just adding, so I went a little bit light on some of them. I could just go over and with a bit more black into my brown to darken it if needed. Keeping it a little bit darker. Okay. Yes. Now I switch to, you can, instead of a black, actually I don't really like black on its own. Black, another piece size in with some of your brown here. Look at that, it gets almost black looking, but it's not. It's just like a chestnut brown in a way. A little bit of water. Okay, and then let's add a couple more. So you can see that they're kind of close in pairs almost. Maybe this one overlaps. Just using my detail brush. Press a little bit harder at the bottom. And maybe another branch there. So this one I'll have come up and just come in this way. And don't force anything. If you don't like it, just leave it. You don't have to add as much as I do. You can even leave it more empty on the sides. So like over here, you could just have a tree half in, half out. There. I think that's good enough on this side. And over here, let's see, I have one just kind of coming in, little branch. And then the rest of it kind of goes up this way. You can kind of, you know, it kind of leans in a little bit towards the middle without touching the middle. And let's do another one. Let's put a little branch coming out. And then one more off to the side here, going out this way. So pressing harder at the bottom, keeping it thinner at the top. There. And then let's say I wash off this brush. After this, it's safe to start working on our dark brown for the rocks that are collected around, which are, I think, easier than you might think, personally. So in terms of the rocks, it's really up to you. If you want to go like a gray color, you can just go gray. If you want to go dark brown with me, you can just do a dark brown. I like to highlight the rocks after I do it in a dark brown color. So I'm going to use my medium brush. So I washed that off and just dried it a bit. So let's take a bit more of our paint. I'm just mixing a little bit more brown. Yeah, pretty dark brown. All right. Take that, touch of water. So for the rocks, wherever you want to start, you can start up higher, but I like to go just a little bit lower, kind of around this area. I want to leave, it's a little gap, but if you're going to put your water over top of the rocks, okay? So I'm just going to do some bumps here, different angles and stuff. See all of that? It's like you have some boulders collected together. And then just a small little gap here. And a little bit, let's go a little bit higher. Higher here. See how all of that originally, you don't see that anymore, where that line was when we cut off where our waterfall is. And then just fill it in. When we fill it in, I'm going to stop. I think I have, okay, so I have my water here. I think actually this is a good, I'm going to go a little tiny bit lower, somewhere around here. Right around here. Just going to put a line, gap, put a line. my water. That's where the gap is for. So in this awkward area, just pretending that I have rocks still kind of mating together a little bit. Don't really need to worry about the details. Just bring that down to here. And as I fill it in, I like to fill it in so that you're almost like you're making some boulders, but you're doing some different angles here. Some of them can be softer, sharper. So it's already making texture. Now I have my next layer of the rocks. So I'm just going to take the same color and as I layer it in, you can do as many layers as you like. You can go down. So all you have to do is just go down a little bit. Don't go too far out. So try to just keep it like, okay, right here. It's like a straight line. So it's going into the water. It's kind of sitting flat. And then just make some little bumps and stuff for some boulders that are layered in here. So it's going to probably overlap what's behind it sometimes too. Okay, and then I'm going to do another little layer. Maybe a little one here. Maybe some bigger rocks going towards the sides as it gets over here. And yes, I got some kids upstairs that are a little rambunctious right now. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do the other side. You can add an uneven amount on each side so it's not perfectly symmetrical too. Okay, so seeing some funny comments about kids being rambunctious. Yeah. All right. So as you can see, I have different shapes. They're very abstract and different layers there. So you can have fun with that too. And you can see that the layering, you probably lost where one ends and the other begins in terms of where it's all mixed together up here, but that's what the highlights are for. The snow putting on it, or just without the snow, you can put some sort of frosted look and highlights to give it more definition. And we're going to do that. I'm just going to wash this off. Wash that off. One of the things that you can add is to give it a little bit of shadow before we highlight. So you can take a little bit of black and so just the same dark brown, but you want to wipe off most of your paint with the same medium brush. So it's very, very lightly coated. You don't really see too much paint on here. Then I'm just going right underneath. I don't mind going into the rocks because now it's a good time to do it before we have to highlight and define things. See all over here? You can even just take blue and black if you want more of a blue, black color, dark purple if you prefer those for shadows. But I found that this was nice and did the job. So just a couple of streaks just below. Very light. You don't, as you can see, it's very choppy. It's not showing up too solid. That's why I use very little paint. Okay, I'm just pulling out some of the brown. Right here. And when I get over there, let's just take some black and blue. So remember the dark blue with the black. You can take, it looks black, but you can take mostly blue and a touch of black if you want it more blue. And just break up some of the streaks. You don't make it solid. See, they're kind of spaced apart a tiny bit. And more shadow down here. Just pulling it out. There. Some good shadow. More depth too. I don't highlight yet in white because I don't want to risk touching the brown and spreading more brown. So after you wash that off, now we can put in a little bit of highlights onto our rocks. And it's going to help blend it out too because it's still a bit damp. Kind of works out nicely. And I'm going to take the same brush. I'm just going to add a little bit of my dirty white to just a little bit of the brown. So if you like it like this, you can use this. If you want to add a bit more of a orangey color, you just add more yellow and a touch of red. And you get more of an orange brown. See, it's a bit more colored instead of grayish brown. So that is up to you. Just wipe off a little extra paint. So let's just start this. It's kind of one of those things where you just think like a palette knife where you're kind of swiping and streaking some paint along the sides to give it an accent and then start building onto it, so layering down. Use my finger to blend it out a little bit. Pull off some of the extra paint. And you're just going along the grooves of where you think you see the rocks. So I have, and the rocks don't all, you don't have to make a rock in every little spot. It's been eroded over time. It's like a collection of rocks that are meshed together. So you can leave some gaps too. So it's just like gapped with mud. You know, it doesn't have to all be a rock accounted for. And then just blend that out. Take a bit more. They're not all facing the same direction. They're not all going and angled the same way. They all have different shapes. Maybe I have another one here. So let's do some more. As we layer it down here, sometimes you won't even see all of these because of the leaves and the branches coming in. So yeah, just put in some of that highlights, and it just looks like a bunch of randomly shaped rocks. Kind of cool. Do some different angles. I don't mind being abstract because it comes out unique for each one. Just sometimes even dabbing. Doing the other side. I think you see a rock or some sort of shaped boulder, you can accent it with this color. I think this looks like a big boulder here, so I'll just take advantage of that. Start layering it in. Maybe a little bit more. And that's just two colors, and it already comes together a lot more. You can add, I'm going to add a little touch of more highlight with white for kind of like a frosted look when it's more dry. But one thing that you can do is just take pure black on your brush. Just go along some of the bottoms, like wherever the bottoms of your layers of rocks are. You can just lightly dab, dab with your finger to give it, like, just leave the texture there. We don't need to make it smooth. It gives it more texture when you kind of dab sometimes. So a little touch of black on the brush. So you just dab along the bottom here and around in between some of your rocks. So all into the dark areas. Not all of it, but more into the dark areas. See how I'm just not touching the highlight. I'm going above the highlight, and it looks shadowed behind that rock. So above this highlight here, is it more shadow above that rock before it gets into the next rock or the next layer. And they're not all separated perfectly. Some of them are meshed together. Slightly tap, a bit more black. See, right in this corner, I feel like there's a lot of shadow down here. And up close, it might not look like much, but take a step back, you'll see just how awesome it starts to look. So you like that? Add it in. I think it adds a touch more contrast. And just have patience, let it dry too. It usually picks up some of that dark background color as well. A little bit down here. And if you don't want it just black, just go back to an extra little layer of your dark brown instead of having it all just black. Right? It still looks a little bit deeper in color. So if you need to, you can always touch up on your highlights again, which is, it's hard to stop as well. So you can just add a little bit more if you want more of a pop out of color to highlight them. Now, if you like them really dark, then you can just leave them pretty dark too. Yeah, you don't have to put the snow on top, but kind of feels like maybe it might be a little necessary in a small amount. So I'm going to wash off this brush. Wash it off. Dab it a bit dry. And if you want, you can blow dry your painting, let it dry. But one thing that we can do, if you just want to keep painting and let it dry like on its own, we can start with some of the evergreen, the pine needles that are coming in, like the branches here. We won't do down here just yet. We'll just do some up here. So for the color, I actually did a couple colors. You can stick to one color over another. And remember how I said teal or like, yeah, teal and purple kind of look good together. That's pretty much what I used for the branches coming in. I did start with more of a dark, I'm going to start actually a little bit lighter so you can see it. I'm going to go to a more teal color. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, maybe like minty green. So you can use like a phthalo green and a little bit of white. See, it's like a minty green. That's actually really bright. I don't know if I want to go that bright. Maybe I'll save that for more of a closer to a highlight color. I'm going to go darker. So on the other side of this, I'm going to add more yellow and about equal parts blue and yellow over on the side. And just a dot of black. Get it slightly darker, more muted in tone. So it's just a dark green. Press down on my brush to get the extra paint off. So I like this brush because when I do, so let's swing in a branch, something like that. Swinging right in. And then there's another one just sitting right here with it. And I have a short little one up at the top. Let's go a tiny bit closer. Maybe not. Sorry, just doing a little adjustment. So this is a little bit dark right now, but that's okay. So all I'm doing is kind of flicking it out pretty straight. I'm not doing a, what do you call it, a palm tree leaf type of look, because it's supposed to be a little bit prickly in a way. So they're not palm trees. See how they're kind of flicking out? You can change the angle sometimes. I'm just starting with this, so I'm doing it pretty fast to get a bit of a base coat going. So filling in most of the middles so it's not too straggly. Looks like it's a healthy tree with lots of pine needles on it. And then a little bit less at the bottom. See, really short. Let's go here. Really short. And let it overlap as it would. I will switch to my detailed brush in a little bit, so you can see how that's going. So it's not anywhere close to how I want it to be just yet. Just get that in. Wash this off. Now I can go back to my light minty green or teal. This one. Detailed brush, touch of water. Pick up this paint. So here's a little bit more on how I do it. See that? Just go right over top, more paint. And it's like a nice highlight too. I like to mostly highlight the tops here, so not too much on the bottom. Don't have to do all the same angles. It looks a little bit too uniform, too forced. Longer ones up towards the top part, and then shorter ones down here. This one. Hello, welcome. So I haven't done purple yet. Just going to take my time. We have the other side to do as well. Now I know sometimes the colors can be a bit drastic, and you can just see, you can take a little bit more of your darker color. Right, so you can add a touch more black if you want even darker, but you can just go back to a bit of a darker color, and it gives it a bit more of a slightly blended look, even though you're not blending it. You're just giving it more of that in-between color, so it's not too obvious where these lines start and stop. It acts more like a highlight and a low light. So just put a couple in here, and it's not as bright overall. There we go. And you can just leave it with those colors and not do purple. I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you later what I do with the branches in the middle. You can do black, or you can do like a dark brown. So let's go to the other side. Go back to my dark greenish color. I'm going to start right around here. And maybe I'll put one, yeah, just right about there. Okay, so now you can see what I mean by not really trying too hard up here. Not perfect at all. Shorter ones and a little bit longer, kind of sticking out. I think it's a bit prickly, a bit of a fill to get that shadow going. A bit more paint. All right. So I haven't done the ones down here yet, but that's a good start. Wash this off. I'm going to put my little detailed brush highlights. Whatever you prefer in terms of color, whatever's been working for you. And if you, actually this is pretty close. I said it was a minty green. It's actually really close if you have a emerald green that's pre-mixed. You can just grab that too. Or just take your favorite teal. It's a bit of a teal color. Water, more paint. Very light little, kind of like feathering, but it's, again, it's straight lines that are not soft. They're not curved. They're just more straight, sticking out. I do a bunch of them. And then feel free to tone it down with your, in between a little bit of your dark and your lighter teal or green. Or back to some of the dark to just blend this out a bit. There we go. Okay. This thing is kind of bothering me. All right. Now, while that is just drying for a minute, let's put a little bit of white frost onto some of our rocks here. So when we take our just plain white, nothing fancy. Still using my medium brush, but I'm taking just a little bit. I'm just dabbing it, most of it off, and not too wet. So you probably don't need any water for this. So you can just lightly tap if you want more of a frosted, snowy look, just along the tops. Then you can make it thicker if you want more, add it on top. Right, so you can go a bit more heavy-handed on some of them, especially the top ones. And just as a little idea and tip, if you put a little bit more, you can use your finger too. If you put a little bit more into some of like the little dips, you know, it looks like there's snow collected there. So wherever you feel like there's a dip, you can just add a little bit more in here. Or just follow what you've already been doing. Like right here seems like a good spot. I don't totally cover all of my highlights. You can go a little bit above to give it more of a thicker layer. Or yeah, even do the dabbing. for a light snowy touch, kind of frosted. Or a heavier look. So when you go into the water too, you can just very lightly in here, just streak kind of down the middle, back and forth. Give it a bit more extra highlight that's just shining through. Anyways, so back to a little bit of my white. Okay, other side. So maybe I'll put a little bit more in this area. This I'm also curious to see what our results are when you want to post them to see how much snow we really put, if any at all. It's hard to know when to stop too. Wash this off. Take a little bit. I may have picked up a little bit of brown, washing it off, drying it, taking a bit more white. So remember, more of a dry brush. We don't really want water on it. Okay, this is just very little white. You can see it comes off a bit more gentle. If you want to add a few more into the water. I think it's kind of cool when you take a bit of white and you just lightly tap into the edges of the rocks to give it kind of a splashed look from the water moving around. So you just take a bit more extra white and you just lightly tap along just the sides, and it looks like it's splashing up against the side of the rocks. Okay. So lots of snow. Don't forget you have your detail brush to put a bit more definition if you want to have a bit more control. Anyways. Okay, so for the next part, this is pretty dry, so we can add our waterfall right in here. Then, let's see. Yeah, let's put that in. Let's put white first. Yeah, let's do white first. I'm going to take my white again. I don't mind if it's touching a bit of like some color blue, teal, or purple because it's going to reflect color anyway. So generally, I want to just go straight across, just a little bit lower than the rocks, than these two inner parts of the rocks. And then press, press, straight down. Fill it in. Now, if you pick up brown, just let it dry first. So I'm going to let that dry. Let dry. Let's see if this is dry. Yeah. So now I can go up in here and put in my purple. Some, if you want to put in purple. So just grab your equal parts, blue and red, a little touch of white. Or if you have a pre-mixed purple that you prefer using, you can use that. So you can just use like a violet. A little bit of water. Now, if you don't want to do this, you can just, skip ahead. See, I'm just adding in some purple here. It's quite dark. I'm going to touch more white, give it a bit more of a brighter look. Not too bright, but still kind of dark. So it just breaks up some of the green at the bottom for some extra shadow of a different color. And just as a kind of the branch from where the spine of it, you can take straight black or just, I like to take super dark brown. So that's just black and with your equal parts of red and yellow. So it looks like a super dark chestnut brown again. It's like the same as what we did over here. You remember that? If you just go and kind of lightly, not too perfectly, put in a little bit of a branch going through the middle, and I just very lightly flick out a couple pieces of some of those pine needles again to give it extra shadow from the middle. I think it enhances it a little bit more. Yeah. And right here, very light touches. You don't need to go crazy with the amount. There's really short ones. And trust me, it's going to pop out with the frost on top afterwards. If you want to go a little bit more frosty and snowy into your painting. There we go, and then let's do this one right here. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to add in 2 more of these, like down here, and you can place them wherever you want to as well. You can add another 2 over here. Just leave it so that maybe you have less towards the bottom. So it's up to you. Start with my dark green again. Parts of the yellow and the blue. A little dip of black. You can add one little touch of white if you don't want it too dark. Remember that. Touch of water with my medium brush. Maybe I'll start it right there. Just trying to think. Maybe I'll just do 1 on the side. See if I do a little bit less on the side, a bit heavier on that side. Okay. Another one here. And let's do one this way. You know what? You can also go a little bit thinner too. If you do generally smaller or not as long with the streaks, you can get some thinner little branches coming down. So that's an option as well. Okay. Go to my highlights. So just a rinse and repeat of what I've done up here, just the same stuff. Just remember, maybe you can just rewind and go back if you forgot something. I'm just doing my highlights. You can do your purple if you want to, or put more shadow at the bottom. I think I'm going to go to my purple. Put some at the bottom. And then my dark brown, that little spine in the middle. And this is going to pop out really well when we put the white on. So I'm letting that dry. Now I can do more of like a second coat in here. So one of the colors that you could probably do is just like you did back here, some light blue highlights, some purple or teal, and/or teal. Just taking more of a dry brush now. So just washed it off and dried it. Let's take a dot of blue with a scoop of our white. I'm just going to do some streaks coming down. Okay, maybe I'll take like a dot of my red, or go to your light purple and a few streaks. There. And I just let that sit for a minute. Let that sit. I'm just touching up on some purple in here because I found that it's kind of nice. I like it. And streak a little extra. Nice with some teal. Let me show you the frost on the top. So remember the same thing. You just take a little bit of your white. You don't really want water. You want a dry brush again. Just a little bit. You just tap. This time I'm actually mostly just tapping with the tip of my flat brush. So right there, right on the tip. I'm just letting it sit on the branches, meaning I'm just going through there. Got some frosted snow, just very lightly on the bottom if you want to enhance that a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. So just a little bit maybe on the bottom. And then a little bit at the bottom. Feel free to go more with your snow if you want more of a snowy look. So it looks like it's been snowing a lot. You just put a little bit more of a heavy handed type of dabs on top with a bit more white, depending on how much you want to put in there. So very lightly at the bottom. You don't want too much of a heavy paint of white on your brush, just because on the bottom it generally doesn't sit as much on the bottom as it does the top. So let's go a little bit closer. You can see a little bit closer down here. Let's do some more. You can also use a bit more of the side if it's easier, but I'm still using the tip of the brush. So hopefully we like this. It's a fun technique. Definitely gives it a frosted, snowy look that's just sitting on the branches. There we go. Oops, you can do some extra layers with this white just along the tops if you want thicker snow. And pull it back, take a step back, see how it's looking. Pretty cool. And a little extra at the tops here. I went a little bit more heavy with the snow originally, so I'll just go a little bit more as well. Now washing this off. So soon I'm going to do the birds. If you want to add birds, you can do like a chickadee sort of look, kind of cute and fun. So back to the white, I am streaking in my white here. I just break up some of that color, get a little hint of it right to the bottom. It's kind of going into the water slightly. And then I take a nice blob of my white and just blob it all across the bottom and into the waterfall, just up a little bit and like a pile, so it gives it nice soapy, spongy type of dabs. And a little bit off to the side here. I just lightly tap to give it more of that soapy, splashy look. Just mostly in the middle. Let's go closer, you can see it a bit better too. There, so now you can see a little bit better because that white was a little bit bright. Yeah, you see little hints of your color as much as you want to show. And then we can work on our birds. I am using the detailed brush for the birds. So your birds can be just white and black, or you can add like a hint of some blue, purple. I think purple is nice because there's not a whole ton in this painting of purple. So once again, okay, I'm going to go back closer again. Let's just go back closer. Okay, so starting with this bird right here, I'm going to take a touch of water, black first. So this guy, let's just, you can have him sitting on the rock instead. It's kind of tempting to put it on a rock. Let's just put it like right here. Maybe a little bit higher. Yeah, something. Oh, I can't decide. Right here. So I'm going to do a little circle. Yeah, it's just touching the side of the canvas a bit. Or sorry, the side of the branch. And then I filled it in. I don't think I meant to fill it in, but that's okay. I just filled it in for now. Then I'm going to do a little circle for the head. So you just want to attach it. A little circle for the head, just smaller than the body. And a little black beak directly in the middle, pointing diagonally up. So for these, it doesn't have to be overly detailed. These guys, just a little bit of black going along the top towards the back to kind of merge the body a bit more together because they're chubby chickadees. Yeah, you don't have to add birds if you don't want to. I'm just going to wash this off for a minute. You know what? Since I have leftover purple, I'm just going to take some light purple. Just going to do that. For the tail, I'm going to do a little line flicking out, like maybe 2. Oops. Use this purple to give it a bit of a wing. couple, like a little comma in there. Put some purple into the face, just gave it some highlights really. You can just take white along the bottom. Generally has white all along the front and the bottom here. So if you want to just accent with some black in the tail, like a little streak, that would be fine, but not very detailed. Just as long as you have that circle body, circle head with a beak and a bit of a tail, voila, you have a bird. It's kind of great. All right, let's do another one. Last one. So up a little bit higher. Same detailed brush. You don't want too much water on your brush. This time I'll start with white. White is a good color. This guy, he's looking down. So I have his body a little bit higher. This, and then a little head down here. Ooh, he's pretty far away from the branch, but that's okay. You can always send a little tail flicking up. 1, 2, one short, one long. Extend some of the branches, make it look like he's sitting on it. And then I wash this off. So you can add, your purple, a couple highlights in here. Just streak it in. Then I take my black, so right in the middle, a little beak, little triangle, a couple of streaks following back, along the side of the body, into the tail. I like to mostly outline the body with this black instead of just white. So they generally do have a bit more black. A bit more of an outline, a couple streaks complementing the shape of it. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, so that's pretty much finishing touches there. Unless you feel like you need to do something else. Right, so you can always just put with your detailed brush a bit more blue, for example, into your waterfall. Even blue into the little splashy part at the bottom. But that's optional. Okay, so thanks for painting along with me. Hopefully this was fun, not too bad, not too hard. Show your results on our Facebook page. Go to our groups and the support group for acrylic paintings. And we love seeing the different paintings and results. Maybe you'll paint along with me again soon. Who knows? You can go to artistpaletteDurham.com and you can see all of our coming events. They can be free on Zoom if you are into the Zoom thing and you like supporting us. Thank you guys.